Thank you, Madhurima and Vidya, for such an inspirational session. We move on we shift gears right now. All of us have been living through these strange and stressful times of COVID-19 and lockdown. And it has been like a day-to-day learning uh, that we do. So we have with us Shanil Mukherjee. It is my pleasure to introduce her. She is a therapist and a special educator at the Mental Health Foundation in Kolkata. She will walk us through some of the tips or tools that we may adopt to ensure our mental well-being during these times. Over to you, Shani.
Thank you, Sheila. It's truly a pleasure to be a part of this event. I'm going to speak to everyone a little bit about well-being. So let's jump straight in. I'd like you all to look at these images. And if you could choose just one which resonates the most with you when I say well-being. So choose just one which resonates the most or you connect most with when I say well-being. Right, I hope you've made your choice. Now, it's probably safe to say that not everyone chose the same image. And if some of you did choose the same image, which would definitely have happened, the reasons why you chose it may differ from why someone else did. We're a very diverse group of women here, and the reasons would definitely differ. So therefore, it's important to keep in mind that though we need to have generic ideas of what supports well-being, and these are important to know, it's also important to think about and really tweak these ideas to make it personal, to really, really fit us. Now, here's the same set of images, but I've made one change. And I'm going to ask you the same question. Which image resonates the most with you when I say well-being? Now, it's possible that some of you or a number of you considered a change or did actually change your mind and chose the one on the left bottom, which is really shouting out at us saying, pick me, because in these most unusual of times, it's things like masks and sanitizers, which really definitely contribute to our physical well-being. But the access to this or the idea that these things are useful is what is making, which is contributing greatly then to our mental well-being as well. Just the idea that we know that it's out there. And this brings us to the idea that well-being is not static, or our ideas of well-being are not static, and that they change according to our needs in a particular time. So keeping in mind the idea that we need to personalize generalized ideas of well-being, and also that this changes, I'm going to speak a little bit about the idea of balance and what we balance, about pacing ourselves, and also the role of emotions when it comes to our well-being. Now, we tend to think of balance in the binary. I need to balance this with that. I need to balance work and life, or work and family. And this tends to give us the idea that all things are equal if the balance has to be right. But in reality, we all know that balance is so much more. We're balancing so many more things, and not all of them are equal. But it's also important to keep in mind that my balance is mine, and I need to be comfortable with it, even if it may look precarious to everyone else. Sometimes our balance feels precarious to us as well, but it's important to know that most of the time, this balance does hold. It's also important to keep in mind that some of us are balancing things that others aren't, things that are really out of the ordinary, unusual things. In the last 3 months, most of us have balanced things we never thought we would have had to. Now, some of the things we balance in our lives, we choose to have them. We're quite happy that they're in this balance. But there are also difficult things, things that we don't necessarily choose, which we also have in the mix. And while we're doing all this balancing, we're also removing things out of our balance. And we're also adding things. Sometimes we add a new something to our balance. Sometimes we bring something back which we may have earlier removed because now the time is right. So there's a lot going on with the things we are balancing. And when we're doing all of this, it's important that we create a visual for ourselves to actually be able to see the things we are balancing. Now, a lot of you might be list makers. Some of you might prefer just an assortment of words or images. But if we actually create a visual of all the things we have to, need to, want to, prefer to, not really prefer, in terms of the things we balance, we can actually see, and that really makes our ideas concrete. And while we have this visual, then we can look at each thing that we've represented and really think about the time. How often do I need to look at this? How often do I need to do this? Do I need to do this daily, or can the time span be longer? And once we have that, then we think about the feasibility of all of this and make adjustments. And this process continues. Now, when you think about the time, it's also important that you think about how often you'd like to review this. Would it be better for your well-being if you looked at this on a monthly basis, more often, not so often, but it's something which you would need to work out for yourself. Now, if balance refer to the what or all the things we're balancing, pace refers, if you will, to the speed that we need to move along. Now, for one, some, or all of the things you're balancing, there would sometimes be a need to be really focused and to really be moving swiftly at a constant speed. Sometimes you'll find that you can fly solo, go at your pace, you can catch the winds, glide around, and really move at what you're comfortable with. There will be times when you need to move with others. And sometimes you may choose to move with others, because when you need to tap into your support systems around you and really use other people's wind to move forward, this would be the thing to do. And then there would be times when you can slow down, stop, maybe rest for one, some, or all of the things that you are balancing. Now, it's important to mention here that slow does not necessarily mean better. It is important to remember that your pace, or the fast or slow that you need to move on, is your own. And one of the things is that in the last 3 months, things have really slowed down. It's thrown up a lot of positives, but it's also thrown up things which are not so positive. So don't think about pace as slow is better or not. Try and just work out what works for me in the moment and what do I need. And then we have our emotions, and there are some feelings we love to feel, they make us feel great. And then there are other feelings which we'd rather not have to experience. But it's important to acknowledge that all our emotions are valid and they all give us signs. And these signs let us know, I think this thing is okay. I think these things are in the red and they need looking into. And when we get these signs from our emotions, that's when we may have to consider evaluating our balance, re-evaluating our pace, and making adjustments to this. Because if we're really mindful about our balance, pace, and emotions, then we are our best support and we're supporting our well-being at its optimum. Now, you can do this at any phase in your life, but at times like this, it's far more important to be mindful of these three things. And while you're supporting yourself and you're evaluating and being mindful of all of this, you might reach out to other people, your friends, family, people you know. But do remember that there are professionals out there who will be able to support you with all of this should the need arise. Thank you. Back to you, Srila.
Thank you so much, Shanil, for that very succinct yet very, very informative session, which gave us three pillars to move forward with balance, pace, and emotion. And I think it's a great takeaway. Uh, Thank you once again. While I now hand it over to Priyadarshini from Tata Sons to take you to the final closing session. Thank you.